Part 17. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 162. What Li Yangzi likes is Lily's satisfaction. From the beginning, he never thought that this ordinary girl could persevere until now. Many people can't bear things, but she has amazing resilience. Maybe she is not blessed with a beautiful appearance. She doesn't have perfect figure, intelligence, or extraordinary talents, but she is braver and stronger than anyone else. Her perseverance is stronger than many smart people, and she knows the current affairs and rules. In this regard, Li Yangzi was willing to the reason why he spent his soul power to save her in Swordsman and was willing to give her this heaven-defying skill this time. You can do it for yourself. He was silent for a while and nodded to Lily. Before he was about to disappear, he smiled at Lily. Do you want me to cut it off for you? He smiled so brightly that his eyebrows seemed to be full of brilliance. When he is not smiling, Li Yangzi has that aloof and cold temperament, like a god above the nine heavens, which makes people dare not even look at him from a distance, as if even talking to him feels like he is under great pressure. But now he laughed, as if the spring breeze bloomed in front of her eyes after the ice and snow first melted. Lily even seemed to hear the sound of flowers blooming in her ears, but after he finished speaking, she fell silent, hesitated for a long time, and then gritted her teeth. She thought about the scene when she went to the toilet to take a shower in the future. She couldn't stand the situation where she was holding the beep. Being a man was already shameless. If she had to do it again in the future, if she does something even more immoral, she's afraid that she won't be able to help herself and will cut her off too. Although Li Yangzi's words made her speechless at first, Danmian Lily thought about it and gritted her teeth. Just cut it. Is that okay? No. Li Yangzi suppressed a smile and looked at her wonderful expression for a moment. The shock and disbelief were completely revealed in her cow-like eyes. I couldn't help but turned my head away and laughed twice. Then he turned around and said seriously, the original owner who issued the task would not want him to become a eunuch after the task was completed. Then why do you still mention such a thing? Lily was a little crazy for a moment, and couldn't help but want to stretch her head to push against the rocks nearby. Seeing her behavior, Li Yangzi couldn't help laughing again. But don't worry, as long as you eat good food, it will turn into you can understand your own energy in this way, and nothing embarrassing will happen to you. Lily heard this. She breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that Li Yangzi had just made fun of her on purpose, but he had always been cold-tempered. She never expected that he would make such a joke. Lily laughed twice and watched his figure slowly disappear into the background. In the starry sky, she forgot one thing and shouted hurriedly, "Where is my other dimension and how can I get in?" As soon as she finished speaking, Li Yangzi could no longer hear what she said, and Lily was in front of her. A flash. The body has appeared in a gray space. She must have entered the gap of time and space accidentally. Although coming in once means that you have found a way to come in the future. But she wasted such a precious opportunity without preparing anything. There are only 10 chances, and going out means one less chance. Thinking of this, Lily gritted her teeth and refused to go out again. The surroundings were quiet, with nothing but a gray mist. She could only hear her breathing and heartbeat. She simply closed her eyes and absorbed the plot first. No matter what happened in the future, she had to absorb the plot before talking about it. Waves of severe pain came from her head, and a lot of plots flooded into her mind. Only then did Lily realize that she had become more than just a man, she had also become a witch. She became the Dragon King. She became the unknown old dragon in the Jinghe River outside Chang'an City. She married Zihiao Run's sister and had 9 sons together. The first 8 sons were each given the title of official and went to manage various rivers. But the unknown old dragon in Jinghe, many people may not know it, but he is actually the origin of the famous Journey to the West. He was the Dragon King of Jinghe who appeared early in Journey to the West, but also died early. there was a fisherman named Zhang Xiao outside Chang'an City. He often hunted in the Jing River. Every day he caught fish, he would always send a golden carp as a gift. He mentioned Yuan Xiaocheng, a fortune teller in Chang'an City who claimed to be able to know life and death, and to judge yin and yang. At his stall, Yuan Xiaocheng collected the carp every day and calculated the location of the Jinghe aquarium for Zhang Xiao, so that Zhang Xiao never left home again. The disappearance of the descendants of the Shui tribe in the Jinghe River made the old dragon of Jinghe greatly panic. These were the descendants of fish roe and crabs under his management. Seeing that they were decreasing day by day, he was angry that Yuan Xiaocheng was so in vain of the lives of the Shui tribe and actually cooperated with mortals to salvage them. A member of the Shui tribe, he transformed into a scholar in white and prepared to trouble Yuan Xiaocheng. But who would have expected that this Yuan Xiaocheng, who knew both astronomy and geography, had an immortal appearance that made people fall in love with him at first sight. Although Jinghe was angry, he calculated the location of the Jinghe aquatic tribe with others for no reason. As a result, the fishman always fished for countless aquatic creatures. After seeing Yuan Xiaocheng's extraordinary temperament and conversation, he felt a bit of respect in his heart, so he sat honestly in front of the gown stall and started counting gowns with Yuan Xiaocheng. He calculated what he was good at, managing thunder and rain. He originally thought that Yuan Xiaocheng was just an average person. After all, it was his responsibility to predict whether there would be thunder or rain, and when it would rain. How could Yuan Xiaocheng, a mortal, be able to predict it accurately? Who would have expected Yuan Xiaocheng to be so efficacious? He not only calculated when it should thunder, when it should rain, but also how much rain should fall and when it should fall. Even though Jinghe didn't believe it, he made a bet with Yuan Xiaocheng. Unexpectedly, after he returned to the Dragon Palace, the Jade Emperor actually sent an immortal envoy to convey his will. What he meant was completely inconsistent with the hexagram predicted by Yuan Xiaocheng. Jinghe was extremely surprised and at the same time unwilling to accept this news. He lost the bet to Yuan Xiaocheng and paid off the money, but Yuan Xiaocheng had harmed him so many lives of the water tribe, and now he had to bow his head and apologize to him. This breath was really hard to swallow. Jinghe Old Dragon originally had a strong temperament. Therefore, he violated the Jade Emperor's will and delayed the rain that should have fallen half an hour earlier. However, the amount of rain that should have fallen was 3 feet, 3 inches and 48 points, but he only rained 3 feet and 4 points. At 10 o'clock, he finally deducted 3 inches and 8 points. When he turned into a human and went to find Yuan Xiaocheng to trouble him, he saw him sneering and said that Jinghe River was in danger. He violated the Jade Emperor's will, but was taken to the dragon beheading platform and beheaded. Jinghe was shocked and hurriedly knelt down to Yuan Xiaocheng to beg for mercy. Yuan Xiaocheng only gave him instructions and asked him to ask Taizong Li Shimin for help. When Jinghe heard this, he hurriedly thanked Yuan Xiaocheng and asked Li Shimin to beg him in his dream. Because the person who killed him was Wei Zheng, Li Shimin agreed to Jinghe's request and left the wise minister Wei Zheng in the palace the next day. Playing chess made him unable to concentrate on anything. Unexpectedly, Wei Zheng fell asleep in the palace in the end. Seeing that he was sweating profusely, Li Shimin couldn't help but shake his fan 3 times for him. Wei Zheng took advantage of these 3 cool breezes to behead the old Jinghe dragon in his dream. The Dragon King of Jinghe River was unwilling to die like this. He always pestered Li Shimin to go to the underworld at night to tell the Lord of Hell clearly and give him justice. Li Shimin himself promised to save him, but in the end he helped Wei Zheng kill him. He couldn't swallow this breath, and it was just right. Because of this, Li Shimin had to order Qin Kaiang and General Qin Kaiang to serve as door gods in front of his palace during the night. The Dragon King of Jinghe was afraid of the ferocious appearance of the 2 generals and their heavy evil spirits, so he did not dare to entangle them anymore. These were also folk door gods. The origin of. After Li Shimin was frightened, he could only resort to Buddhism, but the Buddhism in the Eastern Tang dynasty at that time was incomplete. This is why Xianzang later went to the West to obtain Buddhist scriptures. If the story ends from now on, although the old dragon of Jinghe feels unjust, he has been beheaded after all, but there is no way to recover. However, he has 9 sons. After his death, his wife returned to Zihai and suffered all the people in Zihai. He made things difficult and rolled his eyes, and finally died of illness early. The dragon clan is the righteous god of Siu. Although his lifespan cannot be said to be as long as that of the sky, he is definitely not susceptible to sores and diseases. In the end, the wife of the old dragon of Jinghe died of illness, and his youngest son Gigi was left alone. The guard was sent to Blackwater by Run, and finally he took over the cave and became the king. In Journey to the West, he was supposed to be the son of the Dragon King. He was born so noble, but in the end he was reduced to a water monster. He caught Tang monk's flesh originally because he wanted to please Run and celebrate his birthday, but Run was afraid of the Monkey King. Sun Wukong, in the end, not only refused to accept Miaoji's love, but also sent his son to capture this evildoer. In the end, his son also violated the law of heaven and was sent to the dragon-cutting platform. Because of his early death, his son had no one to discipline him in the end. Jinghe was really unwilling to end up with such a result. Although his son had a bad character, he knew what was good and did not dare to keep it to himself when he caught Tang monk. Instead, he wanted to invite Ao. In the near future, I wish to congratulate him on his 1000-year birthday. For such a child who knows how to repay his kindness, if someone just gave him a little guidance, he would definitely not end up like this. Why did Marshal Tianpeng break the law of heaven but was only cast down to the mortal world? Just because he had a causal relationship, he could not be punished with death if he committed a crime while drunk. Why was it that General Rollerblind was only found guilty of falling into the river as a monster after he broke the wine cup? Why was it that Yuan Shaochen ordered people to kill the life of the Shui tribe and reveal the secret, but nothing happened? Why did Sun Wukong make a big fuss in the heavenly palace but was finally suppressed under the Five Fingers Mountain? I am just fighting against others. Even if I am guilty, I will not be punished to death. The most I can do is to be imprisoned. But I have no cause and effect, and I have no strong help. Brother-in-law, he is just another hard person who only knows how to please and bully the weak. God is unfair, and the Jade Emperor is too harsh. Just because Zhu Beiji, Sha Seng, and others wanted to follow Tang Xianzang in the West to learn Buddhist scriptures and achieve righteous enlightenment in the future, so they violated the laws of heaven and were not allowed to die, but they themselves had to end up being beheaded. Poor his wife and children, they all died early. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 163. Li Shimin didn't keep his word, but he survived because he had the spirit of the real dragon to protect him. Ao Run's son Xiao Beilong broke the things given by the Jade Emperor on his wedding night, but a bodhisattva rescued him and imprisoned him for other purposes. Only he, an old dragon who competes with others, has no effect. The only thing he has is this was the opening that enabled Tang monk and his party to achieve positive results, so no one rescued him, and no bodhisattva who rescued people in distress would say a good word for him, so he deserved to die. The Dragon King of Jinghe River was unwilling to accept it. Later in the plot, the Dragon Prince of Zihai kept calling his son one by one without showing any affection for his cousin. Jinghe was not convinced when his son ended up like that. He wanted to seek justice from the Jade Emperor. He wants his son to live well, and he wants these people who should have died but were not punished at all to pay the price. After Lily received the plot, she didn't expect that she would become the Dragon King now. Although she was a little uncomfortable becoming a man at first, she couldn't help but sympathize with the old dragon of Jinghe. It was indeed wrong for him to be angry with others, but he in the beginning, they were just worried about the lives of the descendants of the Shui tribe. In modern terms, Yuan Xiaocheng pointed out that the behavior of Zhang Xiao, the fisherman, destroyed the ecological balance. Nature is intertwined with each other, and fishermen are fishing, but it is not that they want to destroy all the Shui tribes. After all, he also wanted to leave space for Jinghe to thrive and rest. Yuan Xiaocheng accepted Zhang Xiao's benefits and decided to help him. And the Jade Emperor was too unkind. Even if he was detained for half an hour, even if he violated the Jade Emperor's will, he would just be detained and imprisoned. If he insisted on beheading his head, the Jinghe Dragon King would have died long ago. In the end, he left behind a young son, Dolong, but he was scolded for not being a good father in raising him. He wanted to raise his son well. It's a pity that God didn't give him this opportunity. After all, if it weren't for the achievement of Ling Chan's merits, if it weren't for the hardships of a group of Buddhist monks, I'm afraid Jinghe would not have died. He became the lead who died in front of Tang monk. He died so unjustly, so it was natural that he would feel resentment in his heart. Lily collected her thoughts. Now that she had received the plot and understood that she had become a Dragon King and that Li Yangzi had given her such benefits, she might as well calm down and complete this mission properly. The growth of dragons generally depends on time. The longer the time, the stronger the strength. The dragon has 24 ribs. Once the ribs grow after 10,000 years, the power will be unparalleled. Even if the 10,000 years of practice are limited by the demon body, they may not be as powerful as the dragon. It takes a human to practice for 1,000 years, but what if she practices for 100,000 years? After practicing for 100,000 years, she can be as good as a human being who lives for 10,000 years. But who in the world can live for 10,000 years? More importantly, among her skills is the Tao Te Ching of the Heaven and Earth sect, which is a true treasure. It is not comparable to simple martial arts such as Nine Yang Manual. The reason why Lily did not practice it in the past is simply that it cannot be practiced overnight. Only by living longer, and living for more than 1,000 years, can we truly learn the overwhelming power in the Tao Te Ching. In the past, when she became Tao Bei, due to human lifespan, she could only live for 700 or 800 years at most, even if she was practicing to compete with heaven and earth. Now that she has become a dragon, she is close to the old dragon of Jinghe River. She has 1,000 years, and she has 100,000 years. If she can practice the Tao Te Ching to the extreme, her strength will be like flying into the sky and escaping from the earth. Let alone Wei Zheng, I am afraid that even the Jade Emperor and the Monkey King may not be able to kill him. Got her. Thinking of this, Lily no longer complained about her easy entry into the space this time. Li Yangzi did give her a good opportunity. She is not afraid of hardship. The premise is that she must be given the conditions to endure hardship. If there is no such space, she may only do tasks. Her only change is to swallow her anger for the time being and not argue with Yuan Xiaocheng, but now that she has the opportunity to change, she will naturally seize this opportunity tightly. I don't know how Li Yangzi managed to achieve this in this space. The energy of chaos in it is so rich that it almost feels like the spirit energy that existed before the world opened up. If she stays in such a space for 100,000 years, I'm afraid it's worth practicing outside for more than 1,000,000 years. Although Lily doesn't understand what fairy spirit energy is, and the Jinghe old dragon didn't experience it at all when the chaos first started, but the dragon clan's inheritance naturally has that feeling. She stayed in this small space and 1,000 years passed by in a blink of an eye. Pass. It is not pleasant to meditate and practice all day long, especially when you can only see yourself around. The feeling can make you crazy. She not only practices the Tao Te Ching, she also practices various spells that Jinghe already knows. It was just because the space was too small that she could not transform into the original form of the Jinghe Dragon King, and she could not practice more flexibility with her physical body, but Lily was already very satisfied. She is now like a person who has escaped from the world and practiced asceticism. Many lives of missions have made her a firm and calm character. This feeling of being exiled may not be acceptable to many people, but Lily gritted her teeth and endured it. It was too depressing for a person to practice in a small space, but she still persisted. In addition to the most rudimentary methods of drawing talismans and exorcising ghosts, the Tao Te Ching of the Heaven and Earth sect is valuable in cultivating the mind. Back then, a zombie king like Rong Li was so vicious. After practicing the Tao Te Ching, all discomfort can be driven away. Lily she felt that this thing was precious at the time, but after practicing for nearly 10,000 years, she realized how precious it really was. 10,000 years of time gradually passed by without her realizing it as she gritted her teeth and endured. When she returned to Jinghe Dragon Palace, it was only a matter of breath since she came to Jinghe. It's just that Lily's strength at this moment was very different from before. After she was strong enough, she made new discoveries when she looked at the river area. She could hear the sound of the fishman Zhang Xiao happily fishing and humming a little tune. She could hear the dying cries of the fish and shrimps that were taken away. The Jinghe Dragon King himself was quite capable, otherwise he would not have gotten a fiefdom of his own among so many dragon clans. He could have made the river ripple even by stamping his feet, but at that time he was afraid of the way of heaven and did not dare to move. At this moment, Lily didn't dare to argue with Tiandeo. She only used one opportunity out of 10. She would not deal with this fisherman until she could really compete with Tiandeo and reason with the Jade Emperor. She snorted coldly, and the waves on the river gradually grew bigger. She felt that Zhang Xiao was driving the boat in a panic, and looked at the place where the fish were hanging out, and left with regret. Lily took advantage of the second chance without even thinking about it. Although she couldn't help but feel a little scared as soon as she entered the space and it would last for 10,000 years. After all, the feeling of being locked up in a dark prison was too uncomfortable, and it was easy to make her feel uncomfortable. People are crazy in their hearts, no one speaks, and they can only hear themselves talking to themselves all day long. It seems that they are the only ones left in the world. It feels very bad to be unable to move, but the most important thing at the moment is to improve their strength. She is ready to first enter the space 3 times in a row. When you have a certain strength, even if the law of heaven may come down to punish you for not dying, you can stabilize your state of mind before entering the interval of time and space. The space was still foggy, as if she couldn't feel the passage of time. Lily was actually a little unbearable. It was just that she was thinking about the task and just didn't do it. Once she decided to complete it, the task was not a dead end. Even though she could accomplish it as long as she worked hard on her own, she gritted her teeth and persevered. 20,000 years of time passed very slowly in practice. Lily could not bear it in the space. When she came out again, the fish boat with its stern outside had not yet left the sea. There was still a slight change in her state of mind, as if the changes in the world were as elusive as floating clouds. When she was full of sighs, Lily saw the water mirror on the side. In the mirror appeared a strong figure with a green face and fangs, a purple gold jade crown on his head, and a thick green beard. The sigh just now could no longer be improved. Was so frightened that she held back everything for a moment. Lily's mind went blank and she couldn't help shouting, "Ghost!" Having not heard the sound of her own body for 20,000 years, Lily couldn't help being shocked and stunned by the strong and rich male voice. She touched the unfamiliar beard on her lips, and the figure in the mirror also touching it. Lily couldn't bear to look away and turned her face away. With a wave of her hand, the water mirror turned into river water and disappeared into the dragon palace. What the hell? I almost forgot that this is the original appearance of the Dragon King of Jinghe. I thought I saw a ghost. She couldn't help but touch her arm. After touching the dragon scales in one hand, she couldn't help but shake it again. The palm of the hand, when the prototype of the dragon's body is transformed, It is really spectacular. The original body of the Jinghe Dragon King is probably dozens of feet long. Once it is fully unfolded and soaring in the clouds, it looks very impressive. Lily has been practicing for 30,000 years. It had been a long time, and now he was probably at least several hundred feet long. She thought about the scene when she unfolded her body, and couldn't help but shiver all over. The Sci-fi Dragon King, who was originally slightly stronger than the Dragon King of Jinghe, was no longer a match for Lily. She stretched her waist and thought of her majestic appearance just now. Even though she was a man, she still looked like that. Ugly, the original Jinghe didn't like his appearance when he turned into a human form, thinking that it was really against the dignity of the dragon clan. Now Lily didn't have his thoughts. As soon as she thought about it, the green-faced figure with fangs that she couldn't bear to look at suddenly changed. He looked like a slender young man in brocade clothes, wearing a golden brocade robe. Although he still wore a purple gold jade crown on his head, his face was like a crown jade, and he was extremely handsome. Lily turned into a water mirror again according to the appearance in her memory. As soon as she took a look, a clam spirit floated over. When she saw Lily, she screamed, "Why did your majesty turn into an ugly human form?" "Really? It's to scare the little demon, the queen invites you." To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 164. The Dragon King of the Jinghe River was named the King of the Jinghe River. Although he was not worth mentioning in the eyes of the Jade Emperor and others, and he could beat and kill whenever he wanted, he was like a god among the shrimps, crabs, fish, clams and other monsters in the Jinghe River. The monsters in the river, big and small, have great respect for this protective Dragon King. Perhaps the female clam spirit was so surprised to see her in human form that she instinctively shouted the word ugly. Lily didn't want to distinguish herself from this kind of goblin who has no ability to be beautiful and ugly. But when she heard the word queen, goosebumps came out all over her body. She had already lamented that she had become a man and had accepted the Jinghe Dragon King. But I suddenly forgot that the old dragon of Jinghe is a man who has married a wife and has children. Now the queen is inviting me, how can she use the woman's heart hidden under the man's body to kiss me with the dragon queen of Jinghe? Thinking of this, Lily really felt like crying. Speak to the queen first. I will go later. There was no way to avoid hiding. Lily waved her hand bravely. There was a look on the face of the clam that she couldn't bear to look at. It was obvious that she disliked her handsome appearance. On the outside, while fanning his two huge clam shells, he paddled away quickly in the water. Sighing, Lily couldn't help but have the idea of returning to the space to continue practicing meditation. However, this idea was denied by herself. She has been in the space for 30,000 years. At this moment, thinking of that feeling, she instinctively felt a little tired and scared. It was really not suitable to go in and practice again at this moment. No matter how good the environment was, it was easy for her to do bad things if her mood was not right. After hesitating for a moment, Lily thought about how unhappy the clam looked at her just now, and with tears in her eyes, she turned back to her previous ugly appearance. On the other hand, he headed towards the crystal palace of the Dragon Queen in his memory. Fortunately, the sister of the Dragon King of the West Sea is not as similar to Jinghe in appearance as he imagined. Instead, she turned into a human form. Her skin was fair and delicate, and she was so beautiful that she looked like a real person. She was also dressed as a lady, and there was no sign of a dragon at all. Lily breathed a sigh of relief. She was afraid that she would see a monster with a dragon head and body as soon as she came. Thinking about the appearance of the Jinghe Dragon Queen, it is based on the prototype of the Jinghe Dragon King. All he's missing is a thick beard. Seeing the Dragon Queen's extremely beautiful appearance, Lily let out a breath. She didn't know whether it was the remnant of the original owner's instinct or the fact that she had lived in this body for more than 30,000 years, but she subconsciously reached out and touched it. The beard on the face. As soon as this action was completed, Lily turned to stone. Habits are indeed a terrible thing. She had begun to worry about whether she could live as a normal woman after returning to the starry sky. The king is here, sit down quickly. The wine table has been set with fine wine and delicacies, and the coral tree next to it is swaying with the swaying of the river. This beautiful and precious coral was sent by Aorun, the brother of the Dragon Queen. Everything in the Dragon Queen's palace is similar to the palace she had before she was married. There is an open clamshell on the rock next to it. It contains all kinds of precious jade objects. I heard from Jia that the king is now going ashore to look for trouble with Yuan Shaocheng in Chang'an City. Right, the Dragon Queen had 9 sons. The eldest son, Xiao Huanglong, is now the king in Huizhou, and the second son, Xiao Lilong, is guarding Ji Du, but Tao Ji is the youngest. She has not yet grown up and is still by the couple's side, so she is favored the most. Lily was greatly relieved when she heard that the Dragon Queen didn't call her here just to express her love. In the memory of the original owner, the two couples had always been very affectionate. She was also afraid of what the Dragon Queen of Jinghe was going to do when she called her here. She was extremely nervous all the way. Now when the dragon was mentioned, she thought of what happened to the dragon in the ending. I couldn't help but calm down a little. Where did Madame hear this? But it is true. It is unreasonable for Yuan Shaocheng to instruct fishermen to catch our descendants of the He clan. Lily sat down at the table. She had not tasted any fine wine or food in tens of thousands of years. After a while, she saw the faint aura emanating from the food, and she couldn't help but take the wine bottle and pour a glass herself and began to taste it slowly. My lord, I heard that Yuan Shaocheng is Yuan Tiangong's uncle, and that Yuan Tiangong is Mr. Taizheng, Qin Tian's supervisor. His cultivation is unfathomable, and he is guarded by the true Dragon Emperor's energy. He may not be easy to deal with. There is an awe-inspiring righteousness in people who serve as officials, especially those who have practiced for a long time like Yuan Shaocheng. They are inherently against the will of heaven. In addition, the human race has always been favored by heaven, so whether it is training or thinking, it is far superior. Although the Dragon King of Jinghe is a righteous god canonized by the Jade Emperor, he is just a demon clan before he transformed into a dragon. Although he is in charge of the position of SIU, after all, if it comes to fighting skills, Yuan Tiancheng would be better off alive. The Dragon King of Jinghe is many years old, but in terms of cultivation, he is probably only among his brothers. Seeing the anxious look on the face of the Jinghe Dragon Queen, Lily couldn't help but shake her head with a smile. Madam, what you said is wrong. I'm just giving lectures and theories about astronomical phenomena with him, so how can I fight with him? What's more, he shouldn't have helped the fishermen fish in the first place. How many fish Zhang Shao can catch is his destiny. Yuan Shaocheng, this move is inherently against the law of heaven, so long as he is willing to argue with you, but if he wants to fall out, I will go to Nantianmen to sue him, so that he will be punished by heaven. Hearing this, the Dragon Queen showed a look of relief on her face. Just as she pursed her lips to smile, the other side came. Seeing the mirror for the first time, Lily realized how ugly she was. She thought there could be no one more frustrated than her in the world, but when she saw Miaoji, she couldn't bear to look away and turned her head away. The 9 sons of Longsheng are all different, but now seeing the appearance of the dragon, it is no wonder that he was dismissed as a monster in the first place. He was too ugly and had a black face. However, he greeted him very respectfully when he came. Lily knelt down and kowtowed, calling her father. This child was originally polite, but later he became sensitive and acted in extreme ways when he was under someone else's care. What's more, Tang monk's meat would make him immortal after eating it, which was already attractive enough. Even Lily herself was not sure. Given the opportunity of these tasks, when he knew that his life would end, would he eat the meat of Tang monk? How could he blame Miaoji, who lost his father and mother since childhood? Thinking of this, Lily couldn't help but feel a little pity for Miaoji. She comforted him with a few words, and told him to practice his magic more diligently. Seeing him nodding in agreement, she found an excuse to leave. Although the Jinghe Dragon King and his wife are unparalleled in love, since they are not aliens, they are different from humans in terms of intimacy between husband and wife. Dragons can only have intimacy at fixed points in time, and the Dragon Queen has already given birth to 9 children. It was destined that Maoji would be the last son, so there would be no chance of having children in the future. The two couples just lived together. However, some terrible things did not happen as Lily imagined. Although she was a little reluctant to leave the Dragon Queen, but he still gave Lily a few words of concern and comfort before sending Lily out of the palace. Although the thought of being locked in time and space was very scary, Lily thought about it and gritted her teeth and entered that space. Time passed in the boring practice day by day. Whenever she couldn't bear it anymore after almost 100 years, she would always comfort herself to hold on for a while. When she sat in the space for a long time and couldn't move, Lily would sometimes say a few words to yourself. There is no difference between day and night in this gray space. Lily seems to be forcing herself. Once she reaches a certain level, she will stop and practice other methods. In this way, she can survive the remaining 70,000 years. When she came out of the space-time gap for the last time, looking at the scenery in the Crystal Palace, although it was night, it was as bright as day because of the luminous pearls inlaid in it. Lily suddenly felt like she was a human being again. She was like a prisoner who had just been released from a labor camp. She took a greedy breath of air in the water. She stayed in the time and space gap for such a long time, but the outside only stopped at the moment when she first entered the space. That's it. After practicing for so many years, she felt tired, so she was ready to take a good sleep, and when she woke up, she would go to the shore to find trouble with Yuan Xiaocheng. At dawn, the maid from the Yuhe tribe called Lily to stand up. She turned into a human boy, dressed in white, and walked from the river towards the bank. Wherever she went, the river automatically separated a path for her. This was not Lily's magic, although it is not impossible for her to use her body and only attract the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to overwhelm the sea. The reason why the river is separated at this moment is because the Dragon King of Jing River is the river god. Chang'an City was bustling with excitement. Yuan Xiaocheng was now very famous in Chang'an City. When Lily locked his aura, she walked in that direction without hesitation. There were many people staring at her along the way. It was because the young man in white she transformed looked extraordinary. When Lily appeared in front of Yuan Xiaocheng's hexagram stall, he was shocked. The hexagram in his hand suddenly fell to the ground. He stared at Lily and his face changed greatly. Why are you? Since Yuan Xiaocheng knows astronomy and geography, he naturally knows the identity of Lily at this time. He can let him know the yin and yang again. When he sees that Lily is obviously not on the same level as the original Jinghe, he is still shocked. Startled. The Jinghe Dragon King is just a little god of the river area. Although the name of the Dragon King sounds loud, in fact Yuan Xiaocheng is not afraid of him. In terms of fighting skills, he does not believe that he is inferior to the Jinghe Dragon King. After all, for the sake of balance, the way of heaven makes the monsters practice the difficulty is much greater than that of humans, not to mention that the practice of monsters requires the 9 heavens divine thunder tribulation. Many monsters simply cannot survive these and die early. Therefore, there are some monsters who practice in the world, but not many. Although the Dragon King is a righteous god, he is actually just a monster in Yuan Xiaocheng's heart. However, he did not expect that this Dragon King, who has only lived for 1,000 years, seems to be so powerful that he cannot fathom it, as if all he sees is the vast ocean. Like a small boat, this situation suddenly made Yuan Shaochen's heart sink. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 165. Yuan Shaocheng had already calculated a divination for himself and knew that everything would be unlucky today. Someone was looking for trouble. The divination showed that the source of Jing Shui was coming from. He had not taken the Jinghe Dragon King to heart. Now that he saw the lily, Yuan Shaocheng did not dare to be careless. While looking at Lily warily, he sat on the chair. I heard that Mr. Yin and Yang know the principles of nature. I wonder if Mr. could give me a hexagram. Lily sat in front of Yuan Shaochen's stall with a smile on her face. One of these two people is a well-known Mr. Yin and Yang in Chang'an City, and all his predictions are accurate. Although the other's appearance is a bit unfamiliar, he is extremely beautiful and pleasing to the eye, so people gradually gather around him. There were more. I wonder where Sir are from. Yuan Shaocheng held Guo's hand for a moment, then asked as if nothing had happened. He grabbed a handful of gold and copper coins and wiped them on the table. The coins were already placed in their respective positions. In the past, he would never use this hand in fortune-telling, but now his face looked very ugly when he was doing fortune-telling, and he was already sweating profusely after a while. I thought Mr. Yuan already knew where I came from. I want to tell him a story and ask him to give me some advice. When Lily said this, she smiled. I once heard that there is a dragon king in the Jinghe River who manages the waters around the Jinghe River. One day, there was a Taoist master in Chang'an City. After collecting the golden carp that the fishermen brought every day, he instructed him to go into the river to fish for aquatic animals. Lily spoke in an unhurried voice, and she spoke eloquently, which made Yuan Shaocheng come out. There was a cold sweat on my forehead, and my clothes were soaked with sweat on my back. The Dragon King of Jinghe begged the emperor, but the emperor broke his promise and caused his death. He refused to accept his soul and pestered the emperor. In the end, it contributed to the prosperity of Buddhism in the Tang dynasty. The monk was the reincarnation of the spiritual son of Buddha. Because of the incident involving the Dragon King of the Jinghe River, he went to the west to obtain the true scriptures. When he finally passed by the Hai Shui River, he was captured by a river demon. Lily clearly explained the origins of Tang monk and his disciples, and Yuan Shaochen's face turned green and white. It was a bit ugly, and he almost stood up, but he resisted speaking and his legs couldn't help trembling. Although he could figure out the whole story, he could no longer figure out Lily's hexagram. But now Lily actually told what might happen to her body in the future. How could this not make Yuan Shaocheng extremely afraid? The secrets of heaven cannot be leaked. Even if he is a cultivator with advanced cultivation, even if his cultivation is against heaven, even if the Jade Emperor has no way to deal with him, he can still evade the heavenly soldiers and generals, and cannot escape the punishment of heaven. Then what happened next? When many people from Chang'an City who gathered around heard this, they asked with curiosity and excitement, did Monk Tang get eaten later? Yuan Shaocheng, the dignified Dragon King of Jinghe, came to trouble him, but now he was regarded as a storyteller by the ignorant people. The Dragon King of Jinghe had unknowingly changed. He only knew that things were not going well in the future when he did his fortune-telling yesterday morning, but he did not expect that the predictions would change so quickly. After only one day, he couldn't see clearly the coming and going of the Jinghe Dragon King, as if it was blocked by fog, which really made Yuan Shaocheng a little panicked. Once the variables change, many of them will change. Even if the law of heaven will find a way to make up for this, if the starting point of the Jinghe Dragon King is different, I am afraid that if it only causes changes in the Jinghe River, I am afraid that the people will be in chaos. Later? Then who did you know that monster? Lily smiled slightly. Although she was a man now, she was extremely handsome. But when she smiled, the people who were asking questions couldn't help but look at her. For a moment, his face turned a little red, and he almost forgot that he had just asked a question. That monster was originally born to the Dragon King of Jinghe River. However, after the Dragon King died, the Dragon King of Zhai neglected to discipline him, so he taught him to occupy a hole and become the king. From then on, he never had a good ending. Lily brushed her sleeves and lowered her eyelids. Blocking the thoughts in his eyes, when the people around him heard such a result, they had no time to sigh that the monks had gone to great lengths to obtain funds for the emperor. Instead, they sympathized with the Dragon King of Jinghe who died early. Then the Dragon King is also, it was such a pity that he died unjustly because he was just fighting against others, and that his good head was beheaded. As soon as the man finished speaking, the sky above Chang'an City, which had been clear before, suddenly became covered with dark clouds. This area of water is originally managed by lilies. Even if it rains and thunders, and what time it is, even if it rains in advance, it is the responsibility of the Jade Emperor. The decree was promulgated and then executed by Lily, but at this moment, without her permission, purple lightning flashed across the sky, and muffled thunder rang out one after another. Too much bullying. Lily stood up, her face darkened. Yuan Xiaochang, who had been silent for a long time, sat there blankly. Suddenly there was a loud click, and a purple lightning about the thickness of an arm pierced the sky and fell. It directly hit Yuan Xiaochang's stall and split the table in half. The people around were shocked, but Yuan Xiaochang's face was very ugly. I leaked the secret and helped the fishermen to catch fish greedily. You should have thought about what would happen today, but you didn't expect to be exposed by the Dragon King. Now that you have seen through the cause and effect, you are no longer afraid of the way of heaven. It's just that a poor Taoist has little power, but he dare not contend with the way of heaven. The people around who were about to disperse hurriedly hid under the eaves. When they heard Yuan Xiaochang's words, they all turned their heads and stared at Lily with a look of surprise on their faces. Boom! A heavy, muffled thunder sounded, as if the ground was shaking. Many people knelt down quickly, kowtowing and shouting, "God is angry, God is angry." As he spoke, a bolt of lightning once again broke through the sky and struck Lily head-on. Yuan Xiaochang's cheek twitched, and he was about to speak, but he saw the most amazing and unbelievable sight in his life. Lily actually stretched out a folding fan in her hand and gave it a blow. "Put that lightning in your head. This is the nine heavens' divine thunder, not just the ordinary thunder and lightning emitted by the thunder god and the mother of thunder. There is a faint purple light in it, and Lily can catch it. Even the powerful people in the sky will be seriously injured if they see such thunder and lightning. Or it would turn into ashes. I don't know when a little Jinghe Dragon King had such ability, and such a change happened. I am the king of the Jinghe River. It is up to me to decide how much rain should fall in Chang'an City and when thunder should occur. Chang'an City is her territory, and now someone has crossed the border." Lily sneered and felt the lightning on her hand. With a sizzling sound, he wanted to swim along her arm and into her body. She couldn't help but raise her head, and the originally handsome scholar's face suddenly turned into a huge dragon head and shot directly into the sky. "Just now, I heard this young man talking about the Dragon King of Jinghe River." After a while, everyone saw the storyteller transform into a dragon. Many people forgot about the thunder of heaven for a while, and everyone stared at Lily blankly. There was a roar of dragons in the sky, and Lily's body stretched completely in the sky. She never knew that she would have such a refreshing feeling after completely transforming into a dragon. Her figure changed from big to small in the eyes of the people of Chang'an City, and finally gradually disappeared into the dark clouds. A row of heavenly soldiers and generals were already standing on the Nantianmen. The appearance of this calamity thunder caused the heavenly palace to tremble. The Jade Emperor was anxious and sent someone out to see. He only saw a very huge dragon writhing in the clouds. The tribulation thunder that appeared 9 days away couldn't help but hit her, but was blocked by the huge colorful scales. Occasionally, the thicker thunder made a group of heavenly soldiers unable to bear to hide when they felt the pressure. One can imagine how powerful it is when it falls directly on the dragon. Although Lily can block part of the thunderstorm, this thunder is not ordinary thunder and lightning, and it will hurt her body when it hits her. Especially some thick lightning bolts can occasionally lift up the dragon scales when they hit her body, and the dragon scales are covered by it. How painful is it to lift? It was tantamount to being tortured. In order to resist the will of heaven and avoid the fate that was destined for the Jinghe old dragon, she stayed in the gap of time for a full 100,000 years. 100,000 years. What a concept! No one spoke, no human beings, unable to move. All that was left was endless boring practice. This kind of life was enough to torture a person crazy. She suffered so much just to avoid the disaster in her family. She doesn't want to let herself become a stepping stone under the arrangement of heaven. Is she wrong? Why is it that God has to proceed according to his arrangements? It is clear that the old dragon of Jinghe has endless grievances, but why cannot God see it? Just because the protagonists have their predetermined destiny, Sun Wukong made a big fuss in the heavenly palace, and was finally named the Monkey King. He was only suppressed by the Buddha under the Five Fingers Mountain for 500 years, while Zhu Beiji was knocked down to the mortal world for teasing a beautiful woman. Shamunk broke the glass lamp and even went into the river to become a monster. Everyone has a chance to change their ways, but she, the one who must die, does not. Thinking of this, Lily didn't know what was going on. It was as if a grievance rose up in her mind, making her unable to control her excitement. Although she screamed in her heart, her huge body crossed the South Tianmen, rushed straight towards Jushankai. With a flick of her tail, a corner of the majestic Nantian gate has been swept down. These are all made of the colorful stone remnants collected from the original women. Needless to say, they are hard. The divine power contained in them can be seen from Sun Wukong. He could come out, but at this moment the lily was only broken into pieces with a gentle sweep. Erlang Shen, who rushed over in a hurry, was startled. He could only vaguely see a dragon's tail swinging among the clouds, and a clear chant came from several people. It seems that the heavenly soldiers and generals can no longer bear it. What happened just now? Tais Hanglejun, who hurriedly came from behind, pinched his fingers, but couldn't figure it out. Several Xing Juns appeared in panic outside the Nantian gate. They had been there for unknown years. I have never felt such a threat. Even when the great sage Kishan made trouble in the heavenly palace, the most he could do was turn the heavenly palace upside down. There was no such powerful and terrifying pressure, as if gods and demons from ancient times appeared. It cast a thick shadow over the hearts of all the immortals. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 166. At this moment, Lily roared mightily and rushed towards the nine heavens, but she was crying silently in her heart. What kind of trouble would this unyielding momentum lead to? She didn't want to rush forward without even seeing her opponent. With an unpredictable existence like Tiandeo, she could only survive with her tail between her legs. Why did she rush forward so fiercely now? She silently called Li Yangzi's name, but at this moment Li Yangzi didn't respond at all. After staying alone in time and space for 100,000 years, there was still something wrong with her mind. Her mental state was unstable and her mental strength was not high. Now that she was dominated by the original resentment of the old Dragon King of Jinghe, she felt like she was possessed. Generally crazy. Lily silently lit a piece of wax for herself. At this moment, 9 days away, her loud and majestic roar could be heard everywhere. She never knew that she would have such great potential and be able to make such a high-pitched voice after transforming into a dragon. At this moment she could feel that she was still running around like a madman after flying for 9 days. At first, she felt that her body was very strong, but once she jumped on the Nantianman, her small figure was not enough in the endless space. The thunder and lightning around her became more dense, and it hurt her when it hit her. It's awesome, the pressure around her is getting deeper. Even if she has 100,000 years of cultivation, it's not enough now. Fortunately, she had transformed into her original form, otherwise if she had appeared in her previous form, she would have been broken into pieces by the pressure from 9 days away. At this moment, it was difficult to get off the horse. The key was that the lack of mental strength could not suppress the resentment of the original owner. Coupled with the problems in her original state of mind, it seemed that the resentment of the original owner was given a chance to take advantage of. She couldn't control herself and started to run up to the 9 heavens. At first Lily thought it was caused by her own anger. But after flying into the sky, she calmed down. She was just a person doing a mission. She was just a passerby to the Jinghe Dragon King. The laws of heaven, the Jade Emperor, and the destined cause and effect were actually just a mission for her. She shouldn't have been so angry. Although Lily is not smart, it is precisely because of her lack of smartness that she acts very cautiously and has always been afraid of making mistakes. The impulsiveness at the moment was really out of character for her. Precisely because she knew herself so well, she knew for sure what went wrong after she came to her senses. She was still swaying her body and running around, letting out a clear cry from her mouth to resist the pressure from the 9 heavens. It sounded very majestic, but in fact she was just screaming and running away in confusion. The lightning was getting denser and denser, and her body was already scarred. If she continued like this, she would not be able to touch the invisible celestial image and find the person she really wanted to take revenge on. Sooner or later she will be chopped to death alive. But at the critical moment, Li Yangzi, like the relevant departments, could not be found at all, and Lily wanted to cry but had no tears. She could feel the anger growing in her heart, and her eyes were already covered with blood. If she became a demon and lost her true heart from then on, the Lily she used to be, the Lily who was determined to do the task, would be gone. It is possible that she will stay in this old dragon's body forever and become a demon who has lost herself but lives forever, unable to move forward or retreat. When Lily thought of this, her heart ached. The pain in her body could no longer stimulate her consciousness. There was confusion in her eyes for a moment, and then she quickly came back to her senses. Her body gradually shrank and transformed into the appearance of the scholar in white before. It's just that her clothes are scattered at this moment, and there are injuries all over her body. Except for her face, which is intact, her eyes are shockingly red. The lightning tribulation in the sky gradually disappeared a lot, although it still hit her. It was not as powerful as before. It was as if it was going to destroy the world. It seemed that the stronger she was, the stronger the attack from heaven would be. Once she regained her human body, it was as if the attacks from heaven were weakened. Lily glanced at the sky thoughtfully, and began to let her body fall. She fell for a long time before returning to the Nantianmen. At this time, the Nantianmen had been shattered by lightning, and the palace in the distance had been destroyed. Most of the time, many heavenly soldiers collapsed on the ground, and a group of immortal generals were preparing to have the heavenly soldiers carried back. Obviously, she went crazy before. In addition to being hurt herself, the people in heaven suffered even more heavy casualties. Lily originally wanted to return to the ground directly, but when she saw such a scene, she couldn't help but stopped and pointed at the broken Nantianman. He laughed, ha 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 ha. Although she transformed into a scholar in white, it was obvious that everyone could see the aura of the dragon in her body. Seeing Lily, Erlang Shen and others' new grudges and old grudges, and seeing her smiling arrogantly, they couldn't help but feel angry. He was trembling all over and yelled, "Bold Jinghe! It is true that I am bold enough now. Looking at the appearance of Nantianmen, it has been almost destroyed. I just had one of her skills. The most important thing is that the 9 heavens divine thunder is extremely powerful and can attack an old dragon with deep magic power like her. it is more than enough to attack a group of ordinary heavenly soldiers and generals. These thunderbolts do not have eyes. Looking at the scene in heavenly court, it can be seen that although she is alone, she will be injured, but it is not as heavy as the loss of a large family like Heavenly Palace. The bloodshot eyes in Lily's eyes have not completely faded away. At this moment, the evil side of her heart has defeated the good side, and the person pointing at the Heavenly Palace gloats. Deserve it? These words made the people in the Heavenly Palace tremble with anger. At that moment, they all wished they could roll up their sleeves and step forward to fight Lily. It's just that everyone still has sense. Thinking of the dragon that was hundreds of feet long just now, although I don't know why the Dragon King of Jinghe has such strength, but when the immortals saw how powerful she was just now, they even felt sick just thinking about it. The trembling nine heavens divine thunder had not yet killed her. At this moment, no one dared to step forward to fight her. Everyone huddled aside. After weighing the strength of both sides, no one dared to speak anymore. Originally, in the world of Journey to the West, there is a rule of law of the jungle. Although Tang Monk and Sun Wukong each have their own advantages, the people in the heaven here still bully the weak and fear the strong. So they beat Sun Wukong to the point where the heaven had no choice but to call Western Buddhism for help. It can be seen, so Lily is not afraid of offending people, not to mention that even if she doesn't offend these people, she will not end up with good results, so she is naturally more unscrupulous now. You, evildoer, how many lives have you brought to ruin under the ground? Look at it, Erlang Shen pointed at the ground. At this moment, it was true that the nine heavens god's thunder struck many places and houses collapsed, leaving the people in dire straits. Cries could be heard from everywhere, and some houses were still burning. Xiaohuo does look pitiful. Lily's eyes did not change, she just smiled and said, "What does it have to do with me? I didn't strike the thunder, I didn't kill the people, and I didn't demolish the heavenly palace. It's just a punishment from heaven. Maybe it's because Li Shimin is unkind." The Dragon King of Jinghe originally hated Li Shimin, but now that he could smear his reputation, Lily naturally spoke without politeness, but she was so angry that Sanking's beard trembled. "You didn't kill Boran, but Boran died because of you." The blood in Lily's eyes gradually faded, but the uncontrollable feeling just now was still like a big stone pressing in her heart, making her whole body feel heavy. Li Yangzi didn't show up just now to help her calm down, which proved that the bomb that might make her go crazy at any time would also follow her spirit body into the starry sky and enter the next mission. She had to find a way to solve such a hidden danger. "I don't have time to talk to people like Tianjia. Look at the evil you have done, Jinghe, aren't you afraid that you will go to Abi hell after death?" Another immortal lord stood up with an ugly look on his face. Most of his mansion was almost destroyed during the turmoil in heaven just now. If he wanted to rebuild it, he would have to find the materials himself. If he wanted to restore it to its previous aura, it would probably take nearly 1,000 years of effort. The most important thing is that no one can make up for what he lost. Thinking of this, even Erlang Shen looked ugly. Xiao Tian Dog was just struck by lightning. Although it has been ranked among the immortals, it is still a demon after all. After being repaired, the tribulation of the nine heavens divine thunder is the nemesis of all monsters. It is seriously injured now and has been carried back. The damage caused by this kind of nine heavens divine thunder cannot be easily recovered. Thinking of the suffering suffered by his partner, Erlang Shen, no matter how calm he is, can't help but want to take out the knife and stab Lily 350 times. Everyone stared at Lily with hostility, but Lily sneered twice. "Retribution? If I continue to be loyal, listening to your so-called benevolence and righteousness will be my real retribution." After she finished speaking, without saying anything to the group of people, she directly summoned a cloud and stepped on it. "From now on, the Jinghe River does not belong to the heavenly palace, and the Jade Emperor's will has nothing to do with me." At this moment, The violent anger in her heart has not completely disappeared. It is a dark time, and there are villains who want to retaliate against society. If these gods continue to, if they want to get together, she will go crazy and hit people without caring about the consequences. Her posture made the immortals tremble with anger, but they did not dare to act rashly when they thought of the powerful strength revealed by her body just now. The heavenly weapon god general suffered heavy casualties this time, almost half of his losses, and had no spare power to capture Lily. At this moment, the nine heavens' divine thunder could not do anything to her. Naturally, the people in heaven did not want to die, so they watched helplessly. Lily disappeared into the heavenly palace. Under the nine heavens' divine thunder, the aquatic tribe of Jinghe River also suffered casualties. When Lily's remaining clouds fell onto the Jingshui River, she saw a large number of fish and shrimps emerging on the originally sparkling water, and their bellies were already turned up. Apparently dead. Although Revolution is bound to bleed, due to the influence of the original owner's body, her heart was still extremely heavy, and the pupils of her eyes were faintly filled with blood, and the middle eyelid had turned into a vertical pupil. After a long while, she blinked. And then suppressed the violent feeling in his heart. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 167. The 100,000-year life of being imprisoned and exiled in the space cracks has created Lily's strong strength, and now the sequelae are showing. She seems to be getting more and more angry, and even after venting her anger, it can't make her feel better. How much, seeing the casualties of the water tribe now, even if these water tribes are not dead at this time, they will still be displaced after being beheaded, and there will be countless casualties when the dragon Prince Moang of the West Sea chases the dragon, but she's still feeling very unhappy. She made a magic trick to gather all the corpses of the water tribe, crushed them into pieces, and then flowed into the river. After Lily did this, she sank into the river and returned to the dragon palace without looking back. The nine heavens' divine thunder had just struck her with a lot of injuries, and the dragon palace was also affected now. The signboard of the crystal palace was tilted to the side. Lily covered her chest and returned to the palace. At this moment, she couldn't hold back and let out a long sigh. One breath. She didn't squirt blood that often appeared in novels and TV shows, because she couldn't bear to squirt it out at this moment. The spurt was all blood essence, and every drop was filled with cultivation, so the blood rushed into her mouth and she swallowed it. The feeling was so disgusting that she couldn't help but retch twice and almost vomited out. Lily sat up cross-legged. She vaguely knew that the Dragon Queen had passed by and hurried back when she saw her healing her wounds. No one dared to disturb her practice. It was not until she suppressed the blood in her body that an unknown amount of time passed. A loud male voice rang out, "Dragon King, are you in the mansion? I have never heard this sound before. Those who can get into the river now are ruthless people, especially those who dare to come here after she made trouble once. They are quite courageous." Lily laughed twice. One side opened his eyes. But he saw shrimp soldiers and crab generals in the sea holding weapons to resist someone with a vine wrapped around his waist. The Hosen, with a bright red coral pinned behind its ear, jumped left and right, playing with a group of shrimps, soldiers, and crabs. Otherwise, the worst soldiers are called shrimp soldiers. Now Lily saw that a group of shrimps and crabs couldn't resist them, and the corner of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. But the person in front of her was a ruthless character, so it was natural that these little demons couldn't stop her. She scolded him, and then the monkey grinned and jumped over, looking at Lily's still pale expression. Instead he laughed, "Thank you, Old Long, for taking off the talisman for Old Son." After he finished speaking, he cupped his hands towards Lily in a humane manner, while his eyes rolled towards Lily and he jumped around to look at her. At this moment, Lily didn't know that the monkey in front of her might be Sun Wukong, who had been suppressed by the Buddha for 500 years under the Five Fingers Mountain. Thinking that because of his random behavior, heaven's way of striking thunder to destroy her, he not only hit her, but also even the heavenly court was affected. Nowadays, it is not unusual for a five-finger mountain that suppresses monkeys to be split apart. After all, although Buddha is powerful, how can he compare with the way of heaven? Thinking of this, Lily couldn't help but laugh. Hee, you actually came out too? The Buddha's curse of the Tathagata that pressed you was blasted away by the nine heavens' divine thunder. The monkey nodded happily, while scratching his head and ears with joy. Not bad, and blasted the Five Fingers Mountain into two. Old Sun jumped out, thanks to you. Lily nodded, feeling secretly happy in her heart. In fact, even if she hadn't acted randomly yesterday, the monkey wouldn't have been suppressed for long, because as soon as she was beheaded and Li Shimin was frightened, Monk Tang would go to the west to obtain Buddhist scriptures. Jing Wuzishan wanted to achieve the master-disciple status with this monkey, but he just accidentally released him early, and this monkey actually came to express his gratitude. In comparison, the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas, especially the Dragon King of the West Sea, are much more loyal. Thanks to the old dragon for saving the old sun, he is now free. The Tathagata suppressed the old sun for 500 years. A few days ago, Nanhai Guanxian actually wanted to trick the old sun into Buddhism. It's a good thing that he didn't agree with them, otherwise he would still be here. I have to run around a lot. The monkey jumped, picked up a stone bench that had fallen on the ground and sat on it. Lily signaled the little demon to bring him clothes, and prepared fine wine and food. Just when the Hosen was extremely happy, another call came from outside. Bol Jing come out and die soon. Hearing this, before Lily could stand up, the Hosen, who had already changed his clothes, let out an angry scream and shook his head. Don't worry, I will send him away for you. At this moment, Lily had heard that the voice outside was none other than her brother-in-law, the Dragon King of the West Sea, Ao Run, who had a cheap body, and was happy to let the monkey take care of him. Not long after, I heard Ao Run screaming from outside, Great Sage, you can't do it? The sound got closer and closer, and it didn't take long to see Ao Run running away in embarrassment, being chased in. At least Sun Wukong still thought that he couldn't use his golden cudgel at will in the Crystal Palace, so he only used punches and kicks. But it was enough to make Ao Run uncomfortable, who didn't even dare to return his hand. In the mind of the Dragon King of Jinghe River, the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas in the southeast, northwest, and northwest are all accustomed to adapting to the wind. When Sun Wukong came back from his studies and asked for armor from the Dragon King of the East Sea, he knew that Sun Wukong had never asked the heaven for conquest, but in order to calm down the incident, the four Dragon Kings, the brothers, actually managed to put together a set of armor and boots, and finally asked Sun Wukong to remove the sea-fixing needle. They did not dare to disobey the order in person, but later sued the monkey at Nantianmen. At this moment, the 9-day riot caused the 9-heaven divine thunder to strike down. Seeing that small streams like the Jinghe River had been seriously affected, one can imagine how much damage the Dragon King of the Four Seas suffered. When she thought of this, Lily couldn't help but snickered, looking like she was gloating about her misfortune. Jinghe, help! Ao Run shouted when he saw Sun Wukong. As expected, Sun Wukong was chasing him all over the place. When he saw Lily, he couldn't help shouting, and Lily wanted to give him some. It's a bitter experience. In the plot, although the old dragon took in the Jinghe Dragon Queen and Miaoji, they both ended up in a bad end. The original owner also resented this brother-in-law, not to mention that Sun Wukong had a sense of proportion. Don't look at this monkey. He is wild and untamed, but he is a person with a clear sense of grudges and his mind is weirdly smart. The most he can do is give the Dragon King of the West Sea a hard time, but he will never kill him. Therefore, Lily watched the farce and took the spiritual fruit to eat. After a long time, the monkey who finished beating the dragon came back with a look of joy on his face. Ha ha ha, that old dragon was so inexperienced that he passed out and was carried down. He hasn't moved his muscles and bones for a long time. Now it's fun to play for a while. So happy. Lily's injuries have mostly healed now. This is the power of the Tao Te Ching of the Heaven and Earth section. No matter how serious the injury is, as long as the Tao Te Ching instinctively circulates in the body, the injury can gradually recover. Over the past 100,000 years, the magic power in her body has already turned into a habit, so when she just watched Sun Wukong and Ao Run fight, the injuries in her body had already healed a lot. Why are you here, good brother? Although Sun Wukong was trapped at the foot of Wuzi Mountain, he was still less than 1,000 years old. The old Jinghe dragon was already nearly 1,000 years old, not to mention that Lily had been cultivating for 100,000 years in time and space. It was reasonable to call Sun Wukong a good brother at this time. Sun Wukong was stunned for a while, but then he laughed, "Thanks to my brother for letting me out. Such a kindness is hard to repay. If my brother is sent to do anything in the future, whether he goes up mountains of swords or into seas of fire, I will never blink an eye." Lily just came to do the task and left once the task was completed, so she was not afraid of getting into trouble. You are not afraid of causing trouble, and you are even less afraid of offending others. Because no matter how messed up she was when she was alive, once the mission was completed and she left, how big of a mess would she leave behind? Because of this, even if Sun Wukong said he wanted to repay her kindness, she would not be happy even if he called her brother. Her expression was calm, which made Sun Wukong admire her even more. Although this monkey behaves mischievously, he is a person with a clear sense of grudges and grudges. Anyone who treats him well will naturally repay him twice as much, and whoever treats him badly will certainly repay him 1,000 times as much. Although he was young and wild, he was actually kind-hearted at heart. Otherwise, he would not have gone to Tang Seng Zishan to search for Buddhist scriptures later. They just revealed a spell for him, and he followed Tang Monk Zishan to search for Buddhist scriptures. Of course, Li Shimin was no longer overly frightened by Lily's current commotion, and he didn't know if Monk Tang would go to the West to learn Buddhist scriptures. It's just a piece of cake. To tell you the truth, I just blamed God for being unfair and wanted to have a fight. Unfortunately, God's ways are unpredictable. In the end, I just ended up hurting myself. She made a fuss for a long time, and even the real owner didn't know. When he found it, his heart turned violent and his eyes became a little red again. "Brother, don't be upset, I have a way." After the monkey finished speaking, he laughed evilly. "Although the way of heaven is unpredictable, there is still a way to force him out." When Lily heard this, her heart moved. This monkey was very strange. Maybe there was a way. So she acted like she was all ears, and Sun Wukong whispered in her ear, "What is the way of heaven?" "I'm afraid if I let my younger brother come out of the mountain, I'm afraid isn't it under heaven's prediction?" "Indeed not. He was originally supposed to be depressed for another 2 years, until Monk Tang learned scriptures from the eastern land, and then rescued him, but now he was accidentally rescued by himself." Lily's heart moved, as if she understood something. Sun Wukong said nonchalantly, "If my brother makes a mistake and messes up God's affairs, as long as he makes trouble a few more times and makes many things go off track, I'm afraid God won't be able to do anything to my brother." As expected, this monkey acted randomly and made bold suggestions, but Lily liked it. She laughed, and the more she thought about it seriously, the more she realized that this idea was really good. She looked at Sun Wukong and both laughed maliciously. Sun Wukong went back to Huaguo Mountain. Although he had a sinister idea, he still had to take care of his monkeys and grandchildren in Huaguo Mountain. He had to prepare early when he went back. After Lily recovered from her injuries, Sun Wukong came to hedging again. When he transformed into a dragon and flew directly to the 9 heavens, the purple divine thunder rang again. After being hit all over his body and bruised, Lily couldn't help but laugh when she saw the cursing heaven. Got up. She discovered that one of the advantages of her messing up was that as she used the way of heaven to lead the 9 heavens, divine thunder to strike the heaven, causing many causes and effects, the hostility in her heart gradually dissipated a lot as she caused trouble in the 9 heavens twice. Sun Wukong took advantage of Lily's chaos to touch into the west and made a big fuss. He still remembered his resentment when Tathagata suppressed him, so he took advantage of it now. Western Buddhism was already affected this time, and when it was disrupted by the monkey, his vitality was severely damaged. At this time, he could not care about Monk Tang's study of scriptures and enlightenment. The story of journey to the west was naturally pushed back a lot. When Lily had something like this, she would go to Jushin to cause trouble. After her injuries healed, she set off again. Thanks to these divine thunders, her body became more and more powerful, and the hostility in her heart became lighter and lighter. Every time she transformed into a dragon, she could calm down. Maybe it was because of the same nonsense in this matter that she and Sun Wukong became brothers. 10 years later, Tiandao finally admitted defeat and encountered 2 aliens who were not afraid of cause and effect, let alone retribution in future reincarnations. If they persisted in fighting, they would only be harming sentient beings in the 3 realms, because Lily always attracted Jushin. Because of the divine thunder, today's heaven is almost in ruins, forcing the immortals headed by the Emperor of Heaven and the Buddhas in the west to move elsewhere. But as long as they are under this blue sky, they can't escape anywhere, and the way of heaven was a huge relief for them to stop. Lily, who is independent from the rules of the world, unites the rivers and seas left behind after the Dragon King of the 4 seas has escaped. Looking at Sun Wukong, who has not been canonized by the righteous God after becoming the king of the mountain, but is now not bound by the law of heaven, the 2 of them can't help but look at each other and smile. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 168. Lily watched the Tang dynasty suffer from natural disasters. Some people once said that the Tang dynasty disrespected God, which caused the disaster. Li Shimin had no choice but to do it. Although this time the plot did not suffer from the soul-losing syndrome due to the threat of the Jinghe Dragon King, in the end because of the great Tang dynasty. The Tang dynasty was broken, and in order to calm down the anger caused by Tiandao, Tang Seng still set out as in the plot. He wanted to bring peaceful scriptures to the Tang dynasty. Tiandao once again brought the plot that was messed up by Lily on the right track. But all this has nothing to do with Lily. In the space, Li Yangzi had already sat down and waited for Lily to return. When he saw her coming back, he nodded to her, "Congratulations." Lily rolled her eyes and responded softly. "You completed the mission well this time. Where do you want to add the little thing I gave you?" Li Yangzi still asked the same sentence. Although Lily was a little excited when she thought of mental power, she hesitated and still he gritted his teeth and said, "I want to use force." She was able to successfully complete the Tao Te Ching of the Heaven and Earth sect this time in large part because her force value was high, so it went much more smoothly when practicing the Tao Te Ching of the Heaven and Earth sect, which was still a bit awkward in the past. Li Yangzi did not expect that she could still endure it. He resisted the temptation and stuck to his heart. Logically speaking, what Lily chose had nothing to do with him, so he paused and nodded. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 63, out of 100. Appearance, 61, out of 100 points. Physical strength, 60, 100 full points. Force, 32, out of 100 points. Spirit, 16, out of 100 points. Reputation, 16, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching, Southern Gu Technique. Specialties, Intermediate Cooking Skills, Advanced Acting Skills, 5 Elements, and Bagua Skills. Charisma, 32, out of 100. Collection, Corpse King's Love, Saint's Blessing, Angel's Heart, Dragon King's Promise. Lily was originally happy when she saw her intelligence and physical strength increased by 1 point each. Unexpectedly, when she saw the reputation point, she suddenly became a little anxious. Why has my reputation dropped? She didn't have time to read the information behind it. He hurriedly asked. Li Yangzi sighed silently. A pair of glass-like eyes fell on her. Every gain must come with a loss. I have told you before that when you became the Dragon King, you completed your mission and relied on your own wisdom to force heaven to give in and fulfill the Jinghe Dragon King's wish. Your physical strength increases because you become a dragon, and your strength value also increases because you understand the Tao Te Ching. However, because of the disaster caused by the thunder, your reputation will naturally weaken. You have to discover all this by yourself. I can't mind you, but now that you've seen it, it's not a violation for me to tell you. He rarely said such long nonsense. When Lily heard this, she already knew that she couldn't change it. While she felt a little cold, at least she saw an additional Dragon King's promise in the column of her collection, and her heart was filled with excitement. He breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, Lily's wisdom has increased and she knows how to use the thunder to force the heaven to make concessions. This is purely the idea given by Sun Wukong's stinky monkey, although the magical effect of reputation has not been shown yet. But 5 points were poached for no reason, and Lily was so heartbroken that she could hardly speak. At this moment, he was biting his lip and just staring at the attribute values. Okay, Li Yangzi waved his hand, and the words in the starry sky turned into light spots and scattered in the space again. He smiled at Lily. Now do you want to continue the mission, or take a rest? Li Yangzi looked at Lily now and really looked at her differently. In the years since he woke up, Lily was not the first person he selected to do the task, nor was she the first person to get the opportunity to separate time and space 10 times. But she was the only one who really used the 100,000 years of time thoroughly. Sometimes Li Yangzi couldn't understand why she could endure the 100,000 years of loneliness. Even he felt that at the time his long life was too boring and he sealed himself away. Thinking of this, Li Yangzi pursed her lips, and her eyes were a little sharp. Lily thought about the 5 points of reputation she lacked. She was indeed a little tired, but in comparison, seeing the 5 points of reputation missing, she felt nervous. Without hesitation, she chose to continue the task. In Li Yangzi's somewhat complicated eyes, Lily saw his dark and incomprehensible eyes before closing her eyes. This was the first time that he watched him leave, instead of disappearing first and then sending himself to the mission. These strange thoughts flooded into her mind, and then Lily's thoughts fell into darkness. When she woke up, she was woken up by the cold. There was no one around her where she was curled up. Her back was against the cold wall. She forced herself to endure the severe headache and opened her eyes, only to find that she was standing in a dark place. There is not even a street light on the street corner, so it looks very dangerous. This time she became a woman, feeling inexplicably relieved. Lily stood up with her hands on the wall and decided to leave this place first no matter what. It was all in vain. She didn't have any martial arts skills at the moment. Even if she wanted to accept the plot, she had to wait until she was in a safe place. She was wearing stiletto heels and her hair was disheveled. When she reached out to comb through her hair, her tentacles felt dry. She was wearing a light pink suspender belt and a mini skirt on her lower body. When she stood up, her tiny thong was almost exposed. Maybe the original owner had been squatting here for too long, so she shook twice when she stood up. My legs were so numb that every step I took felt like I was stepping on nails. Lily quickly adapted to the darkness by holding onto the wall. When she groped her way out of the street, about 10 minutes later, she saw a shopping mall with flashing neon lights. There were people coming and going in an endless stream, and she felt relieved. As soon as she left, a beggar with disheveled hair and a smelly body touched the corner and lay down, smelling the scent of perfume still in the air, and started drooling. Although it was shameful to sit in a daze at the entrance of the shopping mall, it was about 7 o'clock at this time. Due to the winter, the air outside was very cold. A gust of cold wind made her shiver and she sat on a stool outside the shopping mall. Fortunately, the heater in the mall kept blowing out, which made her feel better. There were so many people at this moment, Lily was not afraid of anything happening, so she closed her eyes and the director began to absorb the plot on his own. About 2 hours later, when there were fewer people in the mall than before, Lily opened her eyes. As soon as she opened her eyes, she couldn't help but rub her head. This time she became a girl named Lynn and Lily. She happened to be just 19 years old this year. In this prosperous capital, the Lynn family was considered a well-off and wealthy family, and she was the only daughter of the Lynn family and his wife. However, when Lily was 6 years old, she accidentally met a boy who was 3 years older than her and had a very noble background. Lily's life changed. Lynn has been innocent and cute since she was a child. Although she was of high birth, her character is well behaved and considerate. When the Lin family went to Beijing to discuss business with people, they accidentally met the Pei family, which can be called the royal family in Beijing. At that time the Pei family has a genius named Pei Jun, who is deeply loved by the elders of the Pei family. Logically speaking, although there are times of cooperation between government and businessmen, the Lin family is just a wealthy family in the city, and they are not qualified to compete with the Pei family. Intersecting, but when Pei Jun, the future leader of the Pei family, went out in a car with his parents 2 years ago, his parents died trying to save him, leaving him alone. From then on, the Pei family prince fell into autism. He no longer talked and laughed as before. He became silent and ignored people. He even almost hurt himself several times. The Pei family found countless people abroad. Famous psychiatrists treated him, but they never had any results. Somehow, after the Pei family tried all their methods, they still had no results. It was not until Lin Bei appeared that the prince of the Pei family gradually opened up to her. Be careful. It was just because the two children knew each other accidentally, but Pei Jun was willing to talk to Lily Lin. This was great news for the Pei family. Mr. Pei was already very old, and he only had one son, Mrs. Nyo. The family business will still be handed over to his grandson in the future, but if Pei Jun has always been that autistic person, he is definitely not qualified to take over the Pei family. The Pei family is an industry passed down from his ancestors, and Mr. Pei naturally doesn't want to after leaving the family property in the hands of others, and now finding that his grandson, who he thought was hopeless, spoke again after 2 years, he was naturally very happy. He met Lily Lin's parents, and after talking to them in person, he took Lily to the Pei family. From then on, Pei Jun was indeed willing to talk to her. Although the situation was not all good, he was willing to open his heart to Lily Lin. For Lily Lin, he was willing to start learning some things that Mr. Pei said a man should do. The two grew up as childhood sweethearts. Lily, who was cute and innocent when she was young, began to feel a little dissatisfied after discovering that she had become Pei Jun's girlfriend in the eyes of everyone. Lily sympathized with Pei Jun. The two grew up together. It would be impossible to say that they had no feelings at all. But she didn't like this feeling of being abandoned. It was as if her parents had sold her to the Lin family. The Pei family is average, and because of Pei Jun's autism, he is very domineering. When he sees Lily Lin, he must hold her in his arms and refuse to let go for a moment. If Mr. Pei hadn't coaxed her in the first place, he said that he could protect Lily Lin after learning some useful things. In fact, he couldn't even let Lily Lin out of his sight. This situation made Lily Lin feel suffocated, as if she had become Pei Jun's forbidden love. Originally, Lily Lin was rebellious at her age. When she told her parents that she wanted to be separated from Pei Jun for a while, Lin's father scolded her mercilessly. Because of the support of the Pei family, she was originally just an ordinary child. The Lin family of the company has now become a famous big company in China. How can he tolerate his daughter's mischief? To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 169. The opposition from her parents made Lin Lily despair. Pei Jun was not a good love partner. Compared with others, he would only say a few words to her sometimes, but he would not coax her or be with her. Comfort her when she is in pain, let alone do romantic things to please her. Lily Lin was originally a 10-year-old girl, not a 30-year-old who had seen through the world. Everyone said that Pei Jun was good enough to her, but she didn't cherish it, but no one thought about it when she returned to Pei's house. Not only do you have to face strangers who have nothing to do with you, but you also have to face Pei Jun, who has psychological problems. What is it like in your heart? She started to rebel. She started to go out and make many friends but would not come home. Pei Jun, who cared about her very much in the eyes of everyone, never looked for her. When she was gone, he would only play puzzles, keeping himself calm at all times. Lily Lin began to hate her parents and the Pei family more and more. Her actions aroused the dissatisfaction of the Pei family and received warnings from her parents. No one knew what this 11-year-old girl was thinking in her heart. Until the night before her 19th birthday, when she once again wanted to quarrel with Pei Jun but only got silence from the whole room and his confused and indifferent eyes, Lily Lin rushed out of Pei's house, facing her for her previous actions. She was very dissatisfied with Mr. Pei, who didn't let anyone stop her. She went to wander the streets, and finally hid in a dark street corner and was raped by a beggar who often slept there. After suffering such a blow, Lily Lin was panicked and frightened. When she returned to Pei's house, Mrs. Pei had already known about the incident. He had no patience for her at all and directly asked someone to take away her belongings. Kicked her out of the Pei family, and she thought she was free and returned to the Lin family. All I faced was the very dissatisfied look on my parents' faces. Originally, the only precious daughter could marry the prince of the Pei family. But now she was defiled by a beggar. Lin's father was very dissatisfied and disliked his daughter. Without the help of the Pei family in business, the Lin family relied on the Pei family's talents to succeed. Lin's father personally sent his daughter to the Pei family. Back then, let alone Mrs. Pei, I had never even seen Pei Jun's face again. Since then, the relationship between Lin's father and Lin's mother has deteriorated. Mother Lin complained all day long about her daughter being shameless, which brought her to such an extent that she would either beat or scold her all day long. In the end, Father Lin simply took back an illegitimate daughter who had been raised outside for many years, because Lily Lin had treated her so badly in the past. The reason why he was useful was that he had never thought of bringing home the daughter born in an extramarital affair, but now that Lily Lin was no longer useful, he naturally had to make other plans. He was not ready to give up on the Pei family, so he tried every means to beg old Mrs. Pei to bring Lin Qinyu, who was only half a year younger than Lin Lily, to the Pei family. This gentle and well-behaved girl quickly gained the unanimous love of the Pei family, and was originally unruly and willful. Compared to Lin Lily, who grew older and became more unreasonable, Lin Qinyu would not harm their young master to them, so the Pei family liked Lin Qinyu even more. After Lin Qinyu became useful, Lin's father naturally became more displeased with Lin Lily, a daughter who had disgraced him. Her body was already unclean, and she was of no use even if he wanted to marry her again, so he finally wanted to when he casually sent her to marry an ordinary nouveau riche, Lin Lily finally couldn't stand the stimulation of her parents and the discomfort of Pei Jun marrying another, and committed suicide. She has always suffered from depression, but she just managed it. How could Lin Lily and Pei Jun, childhood sweethearts, have no feelings at all when they grew up? In fact, she had known that Pei Jun would be her husband and her lifelong support, but she didn't like her parents' behavior of forcing her to marry, as if they regarded herself as an object that could be exchanged for huge wealth. She also only hoped that she could have an ordinary relationship with Pei Jun without silence or indifference. She even just hoped that Pei Jun could coax her occasionally and stop ignoring her like that. Long-term repression has caused her to suffer from depression, but no one knows this fact. Everyone only sees that Pei Jun is the prince of the Pei family. He has autism, so people who are not as good as him should be. He was allowed to do so as a matter of course, but no one cared about Lin Beihe's mood. Later, when Lin Qinyu gained power, Lin's mother scolded Lin Beihe all day long for causing harm to her. Her mother's resentment and scolding, and later Lin Qinyu's what Jianyu said proudly in front of Lin Lily became the last straw that broke Lin Lily's back. She was already seriously ill and wanted to die several times, but she succeeded the last time. After Beihe received the plot, her head was still aching. What did Lin Qinyu say to Lin Lily to ask her to seek death? It was strange that it was not included in the plot. Logically speaking, such a thing should impress the original owner, but however, this sentence seemed to be wrapped in a mist and locked in the deepest part of her mind. No matter how much she thought about it, she could not remember that the original owner died of despair in the previous life. It seemed that there was no unwillingness in the plot. But if there was really no unwillingness, she wouldn't be able to come to this place. Thinking that she had just left that dark alley quickly, tomorrow was Lily Lin's 19th birthday, and the alley just now should be the place where the original owner was defiled by a beggar. Fortunately, Lily's experience in doing tasks in many lives made her she hurriedly left there, avoiding the key point where the original owner ended up miserable. Seeing that it was getting later and later, although the Pei family did not say it explicitly because Lin Beihe was regarded as a granddaughter-in-law, she might be the wife of the new leader of the Pei family, so she leaned against a big tree to enjoy the shade. The Lin family had moved their business. After arriving in Kyoto, it was not far to go to the Lin family now, but Lily knew that if she went back to the Lin family, Father Lin would only send her back to the Pei family. Every time Lily Lin returned to her parents' home, she would be disappointed. She is not planning to go back to the Lin family now, but to the Pei family. Although the Pei family was not dissatisfied with her as the person who hurt Pei Jun, it was better than seeing the disgusting faces of Father and Mother Lin when they returned to the Lin family. She touched her body. Naturally, the little suspender belt could not contain money. The mini-skirt also had no pockets at all. The thong inside was even more unlikely to contain money. Lily, who was penniless, admired how this girl came to this place. Yes, the Pei family's villa area is still far away from here. When she was a little overwhelmed, she found that she didn't know who to ask for help. She didn't have a mobile phone on her because Pei Jun didn't use a mobile phone at all, so it was necessary to use it. Thinking of this, Lily couldn't help pulling her hair and sighed. It was getting late now. If she walked back to Pei's house, it would be almost dawn. She was dressed like this. If she walked back alone, she would not be harmed by beggars. Others would not be able to help themselves if they saw her dressed like this. Give birth to evil intentions. Lily thought of this, pursed her lips and glanced around. Although the nightlife in the imperial capital was very rich, once the shopping mall was closed, the rest of the people would only run to the bars and karaoke bars and not appear in the square. She hesitated and looked when she saw the police patrolling the square. Her eyes lit up and she couldn't help but run over on a pair of high heels. Along the way, Lily was still a little uncomfortable with the height. Fortunately, she had practiced martial arts countless times, so she stepped on the high heels. Although he was not used to it, he walked very steadily. After a while, he reached the police car and knocked on the window. The window opened, revealing the face of a middle-aged man in police uniform, about 40 years old. "Uncle, please, uncle, please do it. I was just brought here by bad guys, and now I have no money to go back." Lily was trying to tell her story in a tactful way so that the police could lend her some money. Let her take a car back, or let the police drive her back. Unexpectedly, before she finished speaking, the middle-aged policeman looked her up and down and sneered twice. "Little girl, I have been a policeman for 20 years, you pretend to be the real one, but with your appearance, who else can be worse than you?" Lily could also feel that her hair was extremely shiny. Although it was not dyed black, she didn't know how many beads were randomly strung on it. It pricked her hands even when she touched it. As soon as the police finished speaking, impatiently about to close the window, Lily hurriedly closed the car window in anxiety, and couldn't help but said anxiously, I met my friend was cheated, and now my friend has not shown up, I have no money to go home." The middle-aged policeman was silent for a while, and a sigh appeared on his face when he heard this. Just when Lily thought that her reason would no longer work, she saw this man turn around and take out a wallet from the coat hanging on the back of the car seat. Touched 100 yuan and handed it over. "I have seen a lot of little girls like you. Go back quickly. It's so cold outside and you are dressed like this. You have to think about your parents." The veins on Lily's forehead were beating wildly, and she breathed a sigh of relief when she pinched the money. Her legs had already been numb from the cold. She looked beautiful, but she was shivering from the cold. Now she was finally able to. When he got 100 yuan, he thanked him and took a careful look at the middle-aged policeman. Then he was afraid that he would regret it, so he hurriedly grabbed the money and ran away. It was already after 10:30 when she found a taxi and took a taxi back to Pei's house. She carefully returned to the Pei's villa. The security guard opened the door for her. Seeing that she was back now, he seemed not surprised. His eyes shone with disgust. "After walking for more than 2/4 of an hour, until my feet were extremely painful from walking, I finally returned to the main house of the Pei family." The person who opened the door was Qin Ma, the housekeeper of the Pei family. She was wearing clothes and saw Lily coming back with a cold look on her face. He sank all of a sudden and yawned. "Miss Lin, if you don't want to come back, you don't have to force yourself. You wait until the young master has fallen asleep every time before you come back. Why don't you wait until dawn tomorrow before coming back?" To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 170. Because Mr. Pei was dissatisfied with what Lily Lin had done, many servants were accustomed to taking advantage of the situation. In addition, most of the people employed in the Pei family's house were close old servants. Qin's mother had watched Pei Jun grow up since she was a child. At this moment, she was aggrieved for Pei Jun and hated Lily for feeling sorry for Pei Jun. Naturally, Lily understood in her heart. She put her shoes aside without saying a word, picked them up and put them on with her slippers before saying thank you and going upstairs. There was a disdainful sneer from Qin's mother behind her, as if to say that she was young, shameless, immodestly dressed, and fond of fooling around. Back in the house, with the heater on, Lily breathed a sigh of relief. She couldn't stand the cold after a night of freezing. She took off her weird long hair with a runny nose, and a figure appeared in the mirror. Her face is covered with colorful and heavy makeup. The appearance under the heavy makeup is not very beautiful, but it is very beautiful. She has a face that looks cute and beautiful, and it is easy for people to fall in love with her at a glance. Her long hair was covered with pendants, jade beads, and other trinkets. The Pei family did not treat her badly. Although Lily Lin had complained about Pei Jun in the past 2 years, the attitude of the servants had become colder, but there was no after deducting her money. Lily breathed a sigh of relief when she finished taking a shower and dried her hair and went to bed. Her head hurt terribly. She didn't know whether it was because she had a cold or because she had absorbed the plot. She was feeling groggy at the moment. When she was half asleep and half awake, there was a soft knock on the door. A tall and thin man, the figure, stood by the bed and looked at her for a long time, then took off his shoes, lifted the quilt and lay down on the bed. It was still a bit cold at night. Lily had a headache and didn't like the dull air in the house, so she turned off the heater. At this moment the quilt was lifted. Air conditioning poured into the bed. She couldn't help but shiver, and her body almost curled up. As soon as the figure got on the bed, she instinctively wrapped around him and hugged him into his arms. "It's so cold." She must have caught a cold. The figure let her hug him for a long time. After just a while, he started to feel warm all over his body. The heat was unbearable for her. Sweat broke out all over her body, and her pajamas were soaked in a short time. When Lily was half asleep and half drowsy, she could still remember that wearing wet clothes was not good for her health, so she took off her pajamas and pants until it got cold. He rolled into the figure's arms again. After such a toss, she still felt dizzy when she woke up in the morning. She held something tightly in her arms like an octopus. Lily opened her heavy eyelids and saw her white jade-like chest at a glance. And the scene where he was almost naked in the arms of this figure. She couldn't help but almost screamed, You. She calmed down quickly. When she raised her head, she saw Pei Jun staring straight at her with a pair of dark eyes. His hands were still around her naked waist. She was only wearing a soft underwear and was almost naked. There was no difference, but Pei Jun seemed to see nothing. He only sat up when he saw her waking up. It should be because Pei Jun came to her room to sleep with her in the middle of the night last night. Lily was not qualified to lock the door in Pei's house, because the young Pei Jun did not sleep well at night, and the death of his parents had a profound impact on him. So that he would often be awakened by nightmares in the middle of the night. He was a person who had to follow the rules when doing things. If he woke up in the middle of the night, he would not be able to calm down. Once he could not calm down, he would either do puzzles or find someone to calm him down. Otherwise he would feel very uneasy. He would often go to Lily's room to sleep when he was a child, and sometimes he would come over when he woke up in the middle of the night. This was also the reason why Lily was very dissatisfied. In the eyes of the Pei family, she is not a complete and independent person, as if she was born to exist for Pei Jun and does not have her own body. But in front of the Pei family prince, who will care about what she thinks, even if it is her parents would think that she was just looking for trouble, as if it was a great honor for Pei Jun to be next to her. The persecution of her parents and the contempt of the Pei family were important reasons for Lily Lin's final death of depression. It was just more than 3 years ago that Pei Jun stopped sleeping in her room. She didn't expect that he would come here again last night. Lily saw the way he picked up his clothes in silence and put them on. His clothes last night might be due to her fever. After that, she was too cold or too hot and rubbed them into a mess. The key was that she had torn off several buttons of her pajamas. At this moment, Pei Jun frowned and looked at the clothes, pursed his lips, and had a bit of stubborn dissatisfaction in his bright black eyes. Color. Although the man in front of him is 22 years old, his face is full of gloom. Pei Jun has a pair of elegant and light eyebrows like a distant mountain. The Pei family has been rich for several generations, and all the women he marries are both beautiful and born. Therefore, Pei Jun is very handsome, and almost all the children raised by the Pei family have an innate aristocratic temperament, so even though she knows that Pei Jun may be a mentally unhealthy person, Lily still can't help but look at him more. 2 eyes. He stroked his fingers on the worn pajamas, and his brows furrowed more and more tightly. Even without saying a word, Lily could feel how unhappy he was at the moment. Lily laughed dryly in her heart. She was really freezing. The original owner went out wearing a mini-skirt and a suspender belt on a very cold day. It was already cold in the imperial capital in October. She stayed outside for another 3 or 4 hours, and when she came back, she took a bath in hot water. Bathing was uncomfortable, not to mention that no one cared about her life and death in the Pei family. It was not easy to drink a bowl of ginger soup to relieve the cold. Now she knew Pei Jun's character and was deeply afraid that he would be dissatisfied, so she rushed to please him. Picking up the torn satin pajamas. "Ajin, I'm sorry, I fell asleep yesterday, but that's just because I was sick." "Ajin, please don't be angry, okay?" She stood in front of Pei Jun, her body only reached under his shoulders, and she looked extremely petite. There was no heavy makeup on his face as usual. Pei Jun's hands were held in her palms. When he saw her fair and soft face, he was stunned for a long time. There was a bit of confusion in his dark eyes, little combine. Lily's eyelids twitched. Could it be that he went into his room to sleep all night last night, and now he recognized her? Fortunately, Pei Jun didn't focus on his clothes because he was curious. He just pursed his lips tightly and said with a bit of childish stubbornness, "Zia, you are back." "I've always been there." As Lily spoke, she put her hands on his pajamas that had been buttoned several times just now, looked up and stared at his handsome face, and untied his clothes without leaving a trace with both hands. "Come, unbutton the button, and see the fair and strong chest exposed inside." The heir of the Pei family is full of martial arts skills. Old Mrs. Pei only has a grandson like him, and Lily Lin pulls Pei Jun out of the past. After the person fell into the abyss, he taught him many things every day in the name of letting him protect important people in the future. Although Pei Jun is reluctant to talk to others, he understands what people say. It's just that he sometimes doesn't want to talk to others. At this moment, he looks slender, but he looks good when he takes off his clothes. Pei Jun doesn't understand Lily's behavior. Just frowning lightly and letting Lily take off his clothes for him, then as if he remembered something, he pursed his lips and hugged Lily, while staring at her body without pajamas, the two of them lying on the bed again, sleep. I'm afraid others didn't understand what he meant by this move, but the original owner had grown up with him almost since childhood, so he naturally understood what he meant. Lily knew that he thought he was taking off his clothes to make him sleep like last night. He didn't dare to explain it now, as long as he didn't see the torn clothes, otherwise he would be in a bad mood all day. The two of them had been lying there for half an hour, but Chin's mother and others in the hall of the Pei family's main house were panicking. Although Pei Jun has an autistic personality and doesn't pay attention to others, he has always done things very regularly. He gets up at the same time as he says. What to eat and how much to eat for a meal are as if they have been carefully understood by him. The instrument was fixed, but it had already been half an hour. Chin's mother didn't dare to go to his room to call someone, for fear that he would retract into his shell later, so she hesitated and quickly asked someone to call Pei. The old man called to report. When Mr. Pei rushed home, he found that there was no one in Pei Jun's house. They searched inside and outside Pei's home, even looked at all the surveillance cameras, but could not find Pei Jun at all. Thinking of how his grandson loved to hide and stay silent until he was found, without eating, drinking or talking, Mr. Pei got angry. At this moment, he finally thought of that annoying girl from the Lin family. Waved his hand and said, "Go and call Lily Lin first. Pei Jun doesn't like to use mobile phones or socialize with others." He doesn't even have much to say to Mr. Pei, his biological grandfather. Sometimes he doesn't hear a single voice from him all year round. Lily Lin could sometimes talk to him, but now he couldn't find his grandson. Although the Pei family was in a panic, Mrs. Pei was unhappy that Lily Lin hadn't shown up yet, but he still regarded his grandson as his Zhong, pulled Chin's mother and others upstairs, and opened Lily's room directly. In the room, Pei Jun stared at Lily's face with his eyes open. Fortunately, Lily had the experience of practicing alone in space for 100,000 years in her previous mission. Now she could still calm down after just lying down for an hour, so she couldn't hold her breath at all. She didn't panic. She knew Pei Jun's character. She put her hand on the spot where she put it last night and didn't dare to move. The two of them lay like that for a long time. There was a person who looked like a wooden sculpture beside them. She heard someone knocking the door open. When she pushed away, Lily breathed a sigh of relief. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 171. When the people of the Pei family saw the two figures lying huddled together on the bed in the room, they all immediately lost their minds. Mr. Pei's eyes almost rolled out when he saw the pajamas thrown on the floor, his face with an expression of both joy and excitement. The sound of opening the door had already been loud. Pei Jun's eyes showed a bit of gloom, and he slowly turned his head, with a look of displeasure on his face that his plans had been disrupted. Seeing such a scene, Mr. Pei's eyes almost rolled down. To say what he is most worried about in his life, it is not that Pei Jun will always be like this and does not like to communicate with others. No one in the Pei family can support it. After all, Mr. Pei is only in his 60s now. Modern people are good at maintaining their bodies. He knows his body and will have no problem living for another 20 years. What he worries most about is fear. After his death, the Pei family had no successor. Now from the outside, Pei Jun is no different from ordinary people. He is calm and smart, and can learn anything easily. Apart from not liking to communicate with others and sometimes not being able to control his emotions well, he is already better than he is much better when he is young. At least he is much more stable in controlling his temper than before. But Mr. Pei was still worried. He knew that although his grandson knew many things, he didn't understand the simplest things between men and women at all. In the past 2 years, he could still talk to Lily Lin a few more words, and the two of them could still maintain the close relationship of childhood sweethearts. Although the Lin family has a lower status, at least the Pei family no longer needs to marry another high-status person. The woman came back as a decoration. As long as Lily Lin treats his grandson well, Mr. Pei will be satisfied. But Pei Jun has become much colder towards Lily Lin in the past 2 years. Lily Lin often dressed inappropriately, which made Mrs. Pei unhappy. He regretted his decision to get married. After all, although he didn't care about the status of the Lin family, he did care about his grandson's opinion. If Pei Jun no longer liked Lily Lin, there was no need to keep her here anymore. He had not treated the Lin family badly over the years, but Lily Lin either scolded or sneered at his grandson, showing no affection at all. What kind of family was the Pei family? If it weren't for Pei Jun's sake, he would have cleaned up the Lin family long ago. I originally thought that these two people were out of business. The servants in the family treated Lily Lin. Mrs. Pei just turned a blind eye. He was an old man. Naturally, he could see that this little girl of the Lin family did not want to stay in the Pei family. It was just that he had always hoped that if I can use this little girl, my grandson can have a brighter future. It is best to get out of the haze of his son's wife's accident. It is worth giving the Lin family some convenience. As for Lily Lin, whether she wants to stay or not, that is the matter of the Lin family and his wife. So Mrs. Pei never cared about it. I thought that in the next 2 years, I would only be able to teach my grandson better. If Lily Lin was really unwilling to marry Pei Jun, there are many women outside who want to queue up to marry in. Then it will be fine to send her back to the Lin family and give the Lin family a big gift as her dowry, but Mr. Pei never dreamed that in his mind, he was not enlightened. The grandson was actually able to cuddle up with Lily on the bed. Junior, Grandpa has been looking for you for a long time. Mr. Pei saw Lily hugging each other under the quilt, and saw the clothes scattered everywhere on the ground. He suddenly remembered the problems caused by Pei-jun's autism. For compulsive portraits, his clothes must be neat and tidy. No threads can be found or thrown around. They must be neatly folded after wearing them every day. As long as everything is completed step by step, his clothes must be neat and neat. Otherwise, if he doesn't do something right, he will be in a very unhappy mood throughout the day, and sometimes have very violent emotions. For example, when practicing martial arts, he will sometimes hurt himself with excessive movements. Pei-jun just looked at these people stepping on the floor tiles indiscriminately, with a gloomy expression. Mr. Pei knew him well. He walked as if he had made precise calculations. Every step must be the same size, and his steps must be absolutely the same. He won't step between the seams of the floor tiles. Because everyone was worried about Pei-jun before, they broke in now and didn't pay attention to his rules. Especially if the place was marked by Pei-jun, if you break the laws in his eyes, he will appear very restless. Old Mrs. Pei quickly signaled Chin's mother and others to leave, and he quickly closed the door. Just as Lily was about to move, Pei-jun hugged her tighter, without the feeling of lust, just a simple hug, as if like a child who doesn't want to be separated from his beloved toy. Lily cursed secretly in her heart. Mrs. Pei and others couldn't save her even after they came in. She didn't want to stay in bed with Pei-jun like this all day. Pei-jun was very quiet. He can maintain the same posture and expression for 10 days and a half without moving. Things that others have to do, such as eating, bathing, going to the toilet, etc., seem to him like mechanical actions. He has his own set of strict plans. Although she didn't say it out loud, Lily Lin had been with him for more than 10 years, and of course she knew his character very well. Ajahn, I'm hungry. I want to eat. Lily moved her hand and gently scratched his back. Her soft fingertips traced across his back, causing a string of light itch. Pei-jun, his brows wrinkled in embarrassment. He didn't like doing multiple choice questions. He wanted to reach out and grab Lily's hand, but he didn't want to let go of the current position. After hesitating for a long time, Lily looked at him with a serious look on his face. His handsome face looked particularly cold and gloomy because of his silence. He did not have the vigor of a 22-year-old young man. He seemed to be like an old monk who was 40 or 50 years old and had seen through the world. It would be difficult to get along with such a person. When a person opens his mouth to speak, he will remain silent. Even if he opens his mouth to speak, he may not pay attention to him. When Lily Lin rebelled, she was just a girl of about 15 years old. She had already been determined how she wanted to live her life. In addition, Pei-jun was always different from other people's boyfriends. He was a patient and everyone had to let her go. Looking at her, Lily felt naturally aggrieved. At this moment, Lily had finished speaking. Seeing that Pei-jun was frowning in thought, he obviously didn't listen to what she just said. She hesitated for a moment and moved her hand up slightly, but his expression was blank. He looked like he didn't even move his eyes. Lily was not someone who gave up easily. After thinking about it, she still made a very obscene move. She stretched out her hand and slid it down again. When she was about to touch her pajamas, Pei-jun's eyes changed. This move was effective. She simply put her hand into the pocket of his pajamas, until she touched Pei-jun's thigh. His eyes finally flashed and he stared at Lily seriously. "Zia, this is wrong for you." Of course she knew it was wrong, but if she had always done the right thing, Pei-jun would have ignored her all day long. If she wanted him to listen to her, she had to look into his eyes. His eyes were very dark and bright. As clear and transparent as two pools of clean spring water, without any impurities in it. Good living habits have made his eyes clear in black and white, with no bloodshot eyes at all. When he stares at people like this, it's as if he can only see himself in his eyes in the whole world. Lily doesn't understand why the original owner doesn't like such a clear pair of eyes. She had gone through several missions and seen all kinds of people, but she had never seen such a transparent person. The many dirty tricks Master Pei taught him seemed to have failed to pollute his heart. The two were very close now, and Lily's face was clearly reflected in his eyes, with a serious and firm expression. "I'm hungry, Ajin," she repeated again. In front of Pei Jun, she seemed to have turned into a simple and straightforward person like Pei Jun when she spoke. Her expression had a unique stubborn look similar to Pei Jun during the years when the original owner was 6 to 14 years old. Pei Jun was usually willing to pay attention to her when she spoke like this, and was far more tolerant of her than others, even if she had tried to mess him up when she was young. He would be able to patiently work on the finished picture again. Unlike if others disrupted his plan, he would be upset for the whole day, and he would not calm down until everything was back on track the next day. When Lily spoke like this, a slight smile appeared on Pei Jun's face. He seemed to be smiling instinctively, and a full smile seemed to float in his dark eyes. The originally gloomy handsome face suddenly changed. "Get up. Ziahe, you're back." What he said made Lily very surprised. Lily Lin had always been by his side and never left, but now he said that he was back. She glanced at Pei Jun curiously and said without beating around the bush, "I've always been there. Why did Ajun say I just came back? There is too much color on his face. I was not Ziahe before." The stubborn young man pursed his lips into a straight line, as if he wanted to say something, but because he had not spoken much all year round, he was unable to fully express what he meant. He gradually became a little irritable and restless. Lily felt the change in his attitude and couldn't help but reached out and patted his leg. Pei Jun originally wanted to hold back and didn't want to move the hand around her, but in the end, still unable to hold back, he took Lily's hand out of his pocket and let her tilt it to his waist, then sighed comfortably. "Ajin, I'm hungry." Lily knew that he might not have heard what she just said, so she couldn't help but repeat it again. This time, Pei Jun heard clearly. He sat up silently and said, a pair of staring at the clothes that were missing a few buttons on the floor. Lily felt a little embarrassed when she saw him like this. Although she didn't mean to tear Pei Jun's clothes to pieces last night, they were still hers anyway. Wrong. To be continued.